Most men think the moment a relationship gets truly serious is some big visible milestone. A trip together, a conversation about the future, a decision made out loud. But I'm going to tell you something that most women will only ever admit to each other and almost never say directly to the man they're with. The moments that actually define how deeply a woman connects to you, the moments that determine whether she sees you as someone she's comfortable with or someone she genuinely cannot imagine her life without, those moments are almost never the big ones. They're the small ones, the quiet ones, the ones that last about 30 seconds and that most men walk straight past without ever realizing what just happened. And today, I want to talk about 5 of those moments. 5 specific emotional experiences that happen inside a woman in a relationship that most men have absolutely no awareness of. Not because men don't care, but because nobody ever explained what's actually going on beneath the surface. And once you understand these 5 things, once you genuinely see what she's feeling in moments you probably thought were ordinary, everything about how you show up in your relationship will shift. Not because you're following a strategy, but because you finally understand what she actually needs from you. So stay with me through all 5 because the final one is the most powerful of all, and it's the one that separates the men women feel deeply connected to from the men they simply share a life with. The first thing I want to talk about is what happens when a woman opens up about something vulnerable and you stay present with it. And I mean truly present. Not nodding while mentally preparing your response. Not immediately jumping to solutions. Not redirecting the conversation towards something lighter because emotional depth makes you slightly uncomfortable. Actually staying. Actually being there with her in the weight of what she just shared. Here's what most men don't realize is happening in that moment. When a woman decides to share something real with you, something that lives underneath the surface of her day-to-day presentation, her nervous system is doing something very specific. It's watching. It's scanning your reaction with an attention and accuracy that you probably wouldn't believe if I described it fully. She's not just sharing information. She's testing, not manipulating, but genuinely trying to understand whether this is a safe place to be fully herself. And when you stay present, when you don't flinch or deflect or immediately try to fix what she's feeling, something in her releases. A wall she didn't even consciously know she was holding comes down. And in that moment, she feels something that is surprisingly rare for a lot of women to feel in relationships. She feels genuinely met, not managed, not redirected. Met. And the emotional bond that forms in that moment is deeper and more lasting than almost anything a grand romantic gesture could create. Because grand gestures are easy. Presence in someone's vulnerability is rare, and rare things are remembered. The second thing is what happens inside her when she watches how you handle difficulty. Not difficulty in the relationship specifically, just difficulty in life. A frustrating situation at work. A plan that falls apart. A moment where things don't go the way you expected and the pressure is real and visible. Because here's something that women rarely articulate directly but feel profoundly. Emotional steadiness in a man is one of the most deeply attractive and deeply reassuring qualities that exists in a long-term relationship. When she watches you face something hard without collapsing inward, without lashing out, without becoming someone she doesn't recognize under pressure, something settles in her. Something that operates below conscious thought. Her nervous system registers he is safe. Not safe in a passive way. Safe in the sense of I can build something with this person. I can trust that who he is today is who he will be when things get genuinely difficult. And the opposite is also true. When a man becomes volatile or emotionally unpredictable under stress, even in relatively minor situations, a woman's sense of security in the relationship quietly erodes. Not always visibly, not always immediately, but consistently over time. So one of the most powerful things you can do for the emotional health of your relationship is not to perform calm, but to genuinely develop it. To become the kind of man whose center holds even when the circumstances around him are uncertain. Because she is always watching how you carry yourself when things get hard. And what she sees in those moments shapes how safe she feels to fully invest in you. The third thing is what happens when you remember something small. And I want to be specific about this because I think it's often misunderstood. This is not about grand remembering. Not about anniversaries or birthdays or the big things that most people manage to track. This is about the small things. The details she mentioned in passing 3 weeks ago that you had absolutely no obligation to remember. The thing she said almost to herself about something she was hoping for or something that was bothering her or something she loved. When that detail comes back in your words or your actions later, when you reference it in a way that makes it clear you were actually listening and actually carrying it forward, the effect on her is immediate and significant. Because here is what that small act of remembering actually communicates. It communicates that she matters to you beyond what's directly in front of you in the moment. It communicates that your attention to her is continuous, not just present when she's right there demanding it. And in a world where most people are only half listening most of the time, genuinely absorbed attention feels like a profound form of love. It creates the feeling that she is truly known by you. Not the surface version of her, the real version. The one that exists in the small details and the passing comments and the quiet hopes she mentions almost without thinking. And feeling truly known by someone is one of the deepest emotional needs any human being carries. When you meet that need consistently through small acts of genuine attention, the connection she feels to you deepens in ways that are very difficult to reverse. The fourth thing is something most men don't think of as a relationship tool at all. But it is one of the most powerful ones that exists. It's what happens when you take the lead without being asked. And I want to be careful to explain exactly what I mean here because it's easy to misread this. Taking the lead is not about control. It's not about making decisions unilaterally or dismissing her input or assuming you always know best. What it's about is this. There is a specific kind of mental and emotional exhaustion that comes from always being the one who initiates, who plans, who decides, who holds the logistics of shared life together. And a lot of women carry more of that weight than their partners realize. Not because they resent it, but because it accumulates quietly over time into a feeling of being alone in the management of everything. When you step in and handle something before she has to ask, when you notice something that needs attention and you take care of it without it becoming a conversation, when you make a plan and lead an evening or a decision or a difficult situation with clarity and confidence, something shifts in her. She relaxes in a way she probably doesn't relax very often. She gets to step out of the role of the one who is always managing and simply be present. And that experience, being able to trust that you're holding things too, that you're paying attention to the life you share without needing to be prompted, creates a feeling of partnership that goes very deep. It tells her that you're genuinely invested, that this is not just her project that you're participating in, that you're building it too. And now we arrive at the fifth thing. And this is the one I most want you to really sit with. Because it's the one that determines more than anything else whether a woman feels deeply connected to you or whether she feels, even in a good relationship, somehow quietly alone. The fifth thing is what happens when you stay fully present after moments of real emotional intimacy. And I don't mean physical intimacy specifically. I mean any moment where something real passed between you, a vulnerable conversation, a moment of genuine laughter that came from somewhere deep, a difficult thing you navigated together. A quiet moment where the noise of daily life fell away and something honest existed between you for a few seconds. What happens in those moments is that a woman's emotional state opens in a way it doesn't usually open. Her walls soften. Her defenses quiet down. She is more available to you in those few minutes than she will be for most of the day. And what she is watching for, with an awareness that is both completely unconscious and completely accurate, is whether you are still there, not physically, emotionally. Whether you are still present with her in the tenderness of what just happened, or whether you have already moved on, already closed back up, already reached for your phone or your thoughts or the next practical thing on the list. And here's the part most men don't understand. When you stay present in those moments, when you don't rush past them, when you let the tenderness exist without immediately retreating from it, you create something in her that no amount of effort in any other area of the relationship can create. You create the feeling that she is safe to be fully herself with you, not the managed version of herself, not the version that has to protect its emotional exposure, but the real, open, unhurried version. And when a woman feels that safe with a man, when she knows from experience that her openness will be met rather than walked past, she stops holding back. She invests completely. She chooses you not just as a partner in the practical sense, but as the person she wants to bring everything to. The good and the difficult and the parts she doesn't show anyone else. That is what emotional intimacy actually is. Not the dramatic conversations or the grand declarations. The quiet, consistent daily choice to stay present when presence requires something of you. To remain open when it would be easier to close. To look at her, really look at her, in the moments when most people are already thinking about what comes next. So let me bring all 5 of these together because there's a single thread running through every one of them. Every moment I've described, whether it's staying present with her vulnerability, or maintaining your steadiness under pressure, or remembering the small details, or taking the lead, or refusing to emotionally check out after moments of real intimacy, every single one of them is really about the same thing. Showing her through consistent action that she is genuinely seen, genuinely valued, and genuinely safe with you. Not in words, in behavior. In the small daily choices that either build that safety or quietly erode it. Because here is what I want you to understand about the way women experience connection in relationships. She is not primarily measuring the size of what you do for her. She is measuring the consistency of how present you are with her. The man she feels most deeply connected to is not necessarily the most romantic or the most expressive or the one who makes the biggest gestures. He's the one who keeps showing up in the small moments with genuine attention. The one who doesn't disappear emotionally when things get heavy. The one whose presence she has learned through experience she can actually count on. You can become that man. Not by following a script or performing a version of presence that isn't real, but by genuinely deciding to pay attention, to slow down. To stay a little longer in the moments that matter before moving on to the next thing. To see her, really see her, not just when she's asking you to, but before she has to. That decision, made consistently over time, is what builds the kind of connection that doesn't fade. The kind that deepens with every year rather than thinning. The kind that makes a woman look at the person she's with and feel, without having to think about it, that she is exactly where she's supposed to be. Tell me in the comments which of these 5 hit closest to home for you. And subscribe, because this is the kind of honest, real conversation about connection and relationships that we're committed to having here every single week.